This is a tutorial video showing how to make a full arcade game called Asteroids. It's a fun game to play, it's a fun game to program. Start off with the resource project that I have in Scratch. You can find the link to this in the YouTube description. The screen will look like this. So you'll need to remix it, and then we're going to start by going into the backdrop. And when the green flag is pressed, we want to initialize all the sprites. So I'm going to broadcast a message which I will call initialize game. At this point, all that is going to do is hide all the sprites. So when the player receives initialize game, it hides. I'm going to copy this across to bullet. I'm going to copy it across to asteroid, and I'm going to copy it across to explosion. So each one now contains that simple initialize game script. So back to stage. We've initialized the game. We want to set the backdrop to make sure it's correct at space, which is the backdrop you're currently seeing. And then we will broadcast to play the game. So first thing we'll do is we'll add the player. When he receives the play game, what we'll do is we'll set him to the center of the screen. We'll point him in the direction we want him to start in, which upwards sounds good. And we need to make him visible. And what we're going to do now is add some simple controls for him. So if the player hits the left arrow, then we'll rotate the ship to the left, I think by 8 degrees. Similarly, if he hits the right arrow, then we'll rotate him to the right by 8 degrees. Let's have a look at that in action. There we go, we can now rotate the ship left or right. Let's have him firing some bullets if we press the space bar. Similarly again, if the space bar is pressed, then what we're going to do now is we're going to create a clone of the bullet. We can do this because we want to be able to fire more than one bullet at a time. And so without clones we would need lots of different sprites of bullets. So when I start a clone, I'm going to need to start the bullet from where the spaceship is. So we will go to the player's position. The bullet needs to fire in the direction the spaceship is pointing. So we will point in the direction. In the sensing blocks, there's this useful block where I can select player. We point in the direction of the player. So now the bullet will start where the player is and be pointing in the same direction as the player is pointing. So we can show the bullet at this point and then make it move. So forever, move 10 places. If it touches the edge of the screen, then we want to get rid of the bullet. So if touching edge, we can delete the clone. Okay, simple as that. Now if we fire, yep, we've got bullets, we've got many bullets. Possibly too many. Really, we only want to fire one bullet each time we press the space bar. So to do that, we'll go back to the player sprite and we'll create a variable called pressing space. Now when I create a variable that's always going to be true or false, I usually put a question mark after it, just so it's clearer in the code. It's for this sprite only. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust this code very slightly. Similarly, we're going to have if the space is pressed, now is a new bit of code. We're going to check to see whether it was already pressed. If pressing space is false, then we can fire a bullet and we'll set pressing space to true. And fire the bullet. But if we're not pressing space at all, then we will set pressing space to false. I'll replace the old code with the new, and I'll leave the variable showing there so we can see what happens. If I run the game, pressing space is false. If I press space, it's true until I've released it, and it's false. This is making sure we only fire one bullet each time we've tapped the space bar. So now we're firing bullets. How about adding an asteroid into the game? The asteroid costumes come in 3 sizes: large, medium and small. When we start any asteroid, it always starts at large size, so that may as well go into the initialized game code. Large. And when I start a new asteroid, it needs to start at a random position on the screen. So we'll go to random position, but we don't want him to start too near the player. That wouldn't be fair on the player. So what I'm going to do here is I will repeat until the distance between the asteroid and the player is a reasonable size. So I'll use distance to repeat until distance to player is bigger than 80. So if it's not bigger than 80, then we'll just pick another random position. I'll do that again and again until it starts far enough away from the player. Now we also don't want the asteroid to start moving directly at the player. We want it to be moving away. So how we can achieve that is by pointing towards the player, but then turning to ensure that it is always starting pointing away. At this point we can show the asteroid, and we'd like to see it gliding across the screen. So let's put a forever loop in there and move it 2 steps. I won't do anything until I've actually created a clone of the asteroid. So let's go into control, and at the beginning of the player script here we'll create a clone of the asteroid. Now there he is, up he goes and away he vanishes. There he is, off he goes and away. You can just see him stuck at the edge of the screen there. What we need is for when the asteroid reaches one side of the screen, you should move back across to the other side. This is a bit of long-winded code here, but if he moves off the right hand side of the screen, then his x-coordinate has become bigger than 2 and 40. Then we'll move him to the left hand side to minus 240. Else, if he's moved off the left hand side of the screen, so the x position is less than minus 240, then we'll move him back to the right of the screen, so make it plus 240. And we need to do similar code for the y position. So I'm going duplicate that block, change the X positions to Y positions, it should be greater than 180 and less than minus 180, and we don't want to be setting the X position here, we want to be setting the Y position. So if the Y position has gone greater than 180 off the top of the screen, we'll move it to the bottom of the screen at minus 180, and if it's gone off the bottom of the screen, we'll move him back to the top of the screen. Let's see how that works. There he goes, glides across, he's gone off the right, he's gone off the bottom, so he's scrolling nicely now. We can even fire at him. Can't hit him, but we can fire at him. So, probably a good step now is to make it so that we can actually destroy the asteroid. What we'll do, add a sensing block if the asteroid is touching a bullet, then we'll delete it. Just like that. And if the bullet is touching the asteroid, then again delete it. I'll put that in there. So every time through the loop, if the bullet's touching an asteroid, then get rid of the bullet, otherwise move the bullet forwards. If he's touching the screen, get rid of the bullet. And again and again. So he's going to carry it until he hits an asteroid or the edge of the screen. Let's see that in action. So I can now take careful aim and fire, and the asteroid blows up nicely, but the bullet continues. The reason for that is it runs through this asteroid code. It says, yes, I'm touching the bullet, so it deletes the asteroid, and then it will run through the bullet code, but the asteroid's already been deleted, so it's never actually touching the asteroid, so the bullet just continues to the edge of the screen. A nice way around this is to add a slight delay after deleting the asteroid. Well, just before deleting the asteroid, so he's touching the bullet, waits just a moment, and then deletes it. Similarly with the bullet, we'll put just a very small pause in there, and we'll try that. Take careful aim, fire, asteroid and bullet both gone. That's great. So now, how about adding an explosion to make it look better? When we've hit the asteroid, I'm going to create a new variable called explosion X for all sprites, and a new variable called explosion Y, again for all sprites. When I've hit a bullet, I'll set explosion X to the position of the asteroid, and I will set explosion Y to the Y position of the asteroid, and then I will create a clone of the explosion. Again, I'm using clones because there could be many explosions going on at the same time. So I will simply put the code in there, and in the explosion code, this has a set of costumes. Explosions start explosion 1 and run all the way through each costume before deleting themselves. So because they always start in explosion 1, I might as well put that in the initialization script. And then when he starts as a clone, he needs to move to the correct position, which we have already set in the variable. So it's explosion X, explosion Y, and it needs to be made visible. I'm going to cycle through all the frames of the explosion. So let's repeat 7 times. Don't want it to go too fast. We'll have a slight pause in here, 0.06, for moving on to the next costume. And then when we finish going through all the costumes, the clone can delete itself. So now, when we hit the asteroid, it looks quite nice. What about when the asteroid hits the player? I think a similar explosion would be good to have there. So, if the player is touching an asteroid, then we can hide the player because he's been blown up, and set the position of the explosion to that of the player. Set the explosion Y to the Y coordinate of the player, and create the clone of the explosion. And then we want to finish because the player's been blown up, so we can stop the script. I'll put that down here. So now, if the player touches the asteroid, it should hide the player, display an explosion, and end of game basically. Let's see if he's going to hit the player. He is. Is he going to hit me? Oh, so close. We'll try again. And again. Boom. And the player's gone, can no longer fire. That's great. So how about making it so we have a proper game loop? Front screen, wait until we start the game, play the game, and an end screen. Go back to backdrops, and in here we'll just change this a little bit. So forever, when we start the game, we want to show start game, which is just a backdrop that says press space to play. When we're playing the game, we'll show the normal backdrop, and when we finish the game, we'll show the oh no, you lost the game backdrop. So we'll start with switching the background to start game. We'll wait until we're not pressing the spacebar. I'll explain that in a moment. And then we'll wait until we are pressing the spacebar. The reason for that is because during the game you're pressing spacebar a lot to fire bullets, and if you've just lost the game, you may still be pressing spacebar when it goes back to the front end, and you don't want it to straight away start another game because you're already pressing space. We wait until the space isn't being pressed, and then we wait until it is being pressed. And when it is being pressed, we'll change the backdrop to space, play the game, and the game's finished. Switch the backdrop to game over, player loses, wait there for 2 seconds, and then go back to the start game screen. So, press space to play, and it fired a bullet. Let's try that again. Press space to play, and it fires a bullet. Let's have a look at why that's happening. Going into here, we've pressed space, so the game has started, and straight away it's saying space, if space is pressed, we'll fire a bullet. What we need to do is say that we're already pressing space when we just start this level. So we can simply set pressing space to true. and now it doesn't fire a bullet straight away. I can blow the asteroid up, nothing else happens. Let's see if I can get the asteroid to bump into me. Boom. Oh no, you lost the game. Press space to play. Now I've got 2 asteroids. The reason for that is because I already had a clone of the asteroid from the first game, and I've created another clone for the second game. So every game is going to end up with more and more asteroids. When I start the game, when I receive play game, I should simply delete all the clones to make sure there are no asteroids there. To be on the safe side, I should do the same with the bullet. So when I receive play game, make sure there are no bullet clones still flying around. So now when I play, don't think that one's going to, oh, that one is going to hit me. So boom, I've lost the game. Press space. Good, just 1 asteroid. It deleted the other clone and started again. Okay, that's great. Now, the way asteroids should work is that when you blow up a big asteroid, it turns into a smaller asteroid. When you blow up a smaller asteroid, it turns into a tiny asteroid. Blow up the tiny asteroid, and that's it. And so this script is getting quite long here. So the asteroid script. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom block called move asteroid. On all this code down here, the move and making it wrap around the screen, I'm going to move all of that into move asteroid, and then I will simply call that custom block from there. So it works exactly as it did before, but my scripts are more manageable now. I could take this another step and initialize asteroid. So when I first started the asteroid, when it starts as a clone, now this is nice because my main script here, when I start as a clone, is getting shorter and easy to read, and I can go through it and initialize asteroid, and it'll do a loop, checking for the bullet, then it'll move the asteroid. It's very easy to read the script when you do this. So what I want is when I've blown up an asteroid, I want it to become a smaller asteroid. So what I'll do, unless it's already a very small asteroid, in which case it ends. So if it's costume 1, it becomes costume 2. If it's costume 2, it becomes costume 3. If it's costume 3, it's deleted. So if the costume is 3, then we'll delete it as we already were. Otherwise what we'll do is we'll just make you on to the next costume, and we'll also make it go in a different direction. So point in direction, completely random, 1 to 360, so it could be any direction at all. So now what happens is when you've asteroid's been hit by a bullet, it'll make an explosion. If it's already the smallest asteroid, it will just get deleted. Otherwise it will become smaller and head off in a different direction. So let's try that out. That's looking good. And then if you can see the asteroid is stuck to the side of the screen there. Now there is a reason for this, which I've explained in a separate tutorial about moving sprites smoothly off the screen. Scratch is not happy about sprites moving entirely off the screen and will prevent it happening. There is a quick way around this, which is explained in the other video. All you need to do is set the size of the sprite to a larger size before moving it and set it back to the regular size after moving it. That will then allow it to completely leave the screen. Let's have a look. Shoot him, he becomes smaller, shoot him, he becomes tiny, and there he goes. Scrolls right around, shoot him, and he vanishes. Perfect. But I did mention a big asteroid becomes 2 medium-sized asteroids, and a medium asteroid becomes 2 small asteroids. So a little more work to do here. What we'll do is we'll point direction, then we'll create a clone of ourselves, and then we'll point in a random direction. So we're moving to the smaller boulder, so if it's a large boulder, it will go to a smaller boulder, head off in a random direction, create a clone of itself heading off in that random direction, and then the current clone will also pick a new direction. You see that in action here. Hit the big boulder, boom, split into 2. One continued from where it was, the other continued from a random point on the screen. You can see why that is. I've created a clone which initializes itself at a random position. Now I only want random positions to be chosen when it's the original big boulder. If it's a smaller boulder, you want to continue on from where it was. So I can do a simple check in here. If the costume number is 1, and that means a big boulder, then it will start from completely random position. Otherwise, you won't change the position at all. So now if I run this, should be able to shoot him, and he heads off as 2 small ones heading in different directions, and again. So that's working quite nicely there. But I'd like it to do something when there are no asteroids left on the screen. So we need to count the asteroids to see how many are on the screen at any given time. Go back to the stage, let's create a new variable called level, game level. When we start the game, we'll start on level 1. And here what we're going to do, instead of just creating a clone of asteroid, we're going to set a little loop here to repeat level times creating a clone of asteroid. So when we're on the first level, it will just, as it is now, just create 1 asteroid. And then instead of a forever loop here, I'm going to have a repeat until, I need a new variable. I'll start it with a capital letter because it's for all sprites. Active asteroids. And this variable is going to count the number of asteroids on the screen. So I'll set it to 0 initially. In the asteroid sprite, every time a new asteroid is created, or when a clone starts, we will change the number of active asteroids by 1, get 1 extra each time. Every time one is deleted, we will change the active asteroids by -1. Back to the player. This, instead of having it forever, we're going to repeat until active asteroids equals 0. So we're going to create the asteroid, and we're going to run through until there are no asteroids left on the screen and then end. Let's try that out. Press space. I shall show the active asteroids variable up there. 1 asteroid on the screen, hit it. 2 becomes 3. 3, 2, 1 and 0. So what's happened? Got to the last asteroid, finished this loop and ended the game. It's almost what we wanted. Let's put a forever loop around here. And when you've cleared all the asteroids, when the asteroids are 0, we're going to go up a level. Change level by 1. So now we start with one asteroid. We'll quickly destroy it. And we're on level 2. We have 2 asteroids to start with. And 3 asteroids, and so it goes on, getting more difficult with each level. And I've been blown up, lost the game, press space to play. So the game works nicely now, it's in a full loop. Some sound effects would obviously make this more like a real arcade game. When I fire a bullet, play the sound of fire. When the player's blown up, so that is when he's touching an asteroid, play the large Big Bang sound effect. Oops. It shouldn't be play sound until done, that should just be start sound, otherwise there'll be a slight pause every time you fire a bullet. In the asteroid, every time you create an explosion, you want a different sound effect. A big boom for a big asteroid, a medium boom for a medium asteroid, and a small boom for a small asteroid. So we can simply check on the costume, check which costume he has before making the sound effect. If the costume number is 1, then it's the big asteroid. And if the costume number is 2, it's a medium asteroid. So let's add the sound effects here. Play sound, bang large, start sound, bang medium, start sound, bang small. And that wants to be every time we've hit a bullet. So that's really looking very nice. Now I think we just need to add some atmospheric noise to the background. We'll do that in this stage sprite. I'll add a few more variables. I'll add, this is for all sprites, so I'll start it with a capital letter. And it's a true or false variable, so I'll end it with a question mark. And I'll add another variable called sound delay. Right, and I shall start the game with a sound delay of 2. In the background of an arcade game like Asteroids, there's usually a pounding beat that speeds up the longer you last on each level. Sound delay is the amount of time between each beat. So we'll start it on 2 and broadcast sound accelerator. When I receive sound accelerator, this is going to fall into a forever loop all this code does is it gradually speeds up how fast the beat is going. So forever, I will wait 2.5 seconds and then I'll make it go a little bit faster. So I'll say if the sound accelerating is true, that's the Boolean I just created. If sound acceleration is true and the sound delay isn't already too fast, so if it's, let's say, greater than 0.3, then we'll make the delay a little shorter. So change the sound delay by -0.1. So it'll start at 2, and as the game goes on, it will get faster and faster until the sound delay is only down to 0.3. Right. Actually, this should have been calling background sound, which again is another new event. When I receive background sound, then this triggers the sound accelerator, which constantly runs. And this is where the actual beat noise is made. So forever we'll wait for the sound delay, then we'll play a beat 1, and then we'll wait sound delay and play beat 2. So when background sound is triggered, it sets sound accelerator going, and then it waits 2 seconds, plays a noise, wait 2 seconds, plays a noise, and does that forever. But while it's doing this, sound accelerator is gradually making the delay between the beats shorter and shorter, so it accelerates and gets more exciting during the gameplay. Now the sound acceleration Boolean, we don't want, when we're sitting in the front end waiting to press a spacebar, we don't want the sound to be getting quicker and quicker and quicker at that point, because we're not really playing. And so we'll set the variable when I'm waiting for the spacebar to be pressed, sound acceleration can be false, because you don't want it to get faster at that point. As soon as I've started the game, I've pressed space, then sound acceleration can be true. There's only one more thing to change. When you've destroyed all the asteroids on a level, the sound always goes back to a slow beat, getting faster and faster as the level goes on. And so here, I've created all the asteroids. I will set the sound delay to 2. Now if I play this game, you can hear that in the background very slowly. If I can carry on playing without getting blown up, it should get faster and faster. Yep, it's accelerating. Adds to the tension of the game. Level 2, 2 asteroids. And there we have a nice Asteroids game to play. It's not finished by any means. There are many improvements you can make to this game. There's no score at the moment. You should score for destroying asteroids. You could add a high score, a cloud high score. You could add multiple lives so that you have 3 lives, so the game isn't over straight away when you get blown up. Maybe add a bonus life when you get a certain score. You could add a thrust so that the spaceship can move around if you press maybe the up arrow. In the actual arcade game, there's also flying saucers that appear on the screen and many other things. All of these are possible extensions you could write yourself. You could change the look of the game. They don't have to be asteroids flying around, they could be custard pies, you could be throwing eggs at custard pies. It could be whatever you want. Just take the idea and have fun with it.